She walked into the clinic feeling like she was stepping into a new life. Her name was Betty, and for as long as she could remember, she had believed one thing: if you can dream it, you can change it. Her reflection told a story she was tired of playing, so she told herself that this time, she would rewrite her story. The mirror in the clinic hallway glowed under the soft white light. Betty paused. She took a deep breath, squared her shoulders. In that moment she thought, this is the day I become the version of me I deserve. And when the surgeon asked if she was sure, she nodded. Because she believed the promise they whispered: look younger, feel confident, be admired. But behind that promise lay the truth they didn't tell her. By the end of this story you'll understand exactly what they didn't tell Betty, so stay with me. She signed the papers without reading all the words. She picked the glossy brochure of after photos with perfect bodies, perfect faces. No warnings. No real voices of regret. Just the shine of what she could be. On the operating table, the lights felt bright. The masks, the machines. Betty drifted into anesthesia, drifted into promise. She dreamed of laughing with friends, of looking in the mirror and seeing a face that said victory. When she woke up, she didn't feel victorious. Her cheeks were swollen. Everything around her smelled of antiseptic. She wanted to cry. She wanted to laugh. She just wanted to know, what have I done? The surgeon gave her a hand mirror. She looked. And for the first time she didn't recognize the reflection. It wasn't the magazine image she'd studied. It wasn't the youthful face she'd visualized. It was something different. Somewhere between dream and reality, the line had blurred. And soon she would learn the truth: they didn't tell her about the fails. In the first week she returned home, carrying the swelling, the bandages. No one told her that the hardest part would be what happened after the lights turned off. In the mirror at night, she pressed a finger to her cheek and felt unfamiliar hardness under the skin. She poked at a line of bruising and wondered how long that bruise would define her. Friends visited. They saw the plaster and masks. They said things like, take all the time you need, darling. But the worst visits were the ones where they didn't visit at all, where she heard laughter outside and felt invisible inside. She began editing every selfie before posting. Her captions changed, from, can't wait to show you the new me, to, recovery mode, please be patient. On Instagram she scrolled through posts of influencers glowing after surgery, their smiles bright, their scars hidden. She typed comments, you look amazing, she lied. And she looked at her own face, swollen, raw, unpolished. Just when you think it can't hurt more, the moment comes where she realizes the cost no one showed her. About 6 weeks in, the real shift happened. She was invited to a party. Her new face. She wished to feel proud. Instead, she felt exposed. The mirrors in the venue seemed to multiply. The lights overhead seemed harsh. She smiled anyway. But every time she looked around, she felt the eyes. Not the admiring ones she imagined, but the ones that measured, compared, judged. She heard someone whisper, did she have work done? And another, I wonder if it was worth it. Her chest churned. She escaped to the bathroom and looked at herself in the mirror, the face, the healing scars, the asymmetry. She thought of the brochure. The perfect photos. The hidden words she didn't read. And she asked herself, what do they mean when they say fails? The statistics haunted her. She remembered reading a report, up to 15% of cosmetic surgery patients regret their procedure within 5 years. Also, surveys show that about 10% of patients report significant dissatisfaction or complications. She began researching in secret. She learned 1 in 5 women who undergo body contouring feel dissatisfaction. She read about corrective surgeries. 8 out of 10 surgeons said they were seeing a dramatic rise in fixing botched procedures. It wasn't just a cosmetic issue. It was psychological. Regret did not fade like a scar, it followed them discreetly. Betty felt the pull of excitement fade faster than she expected. A month after the lights in the clinic faded, she woke up not just in discomfort, but in a strange new world. A world where every mirror whispered, "What did you do?" She stood in her bathroom one early morning, under the harsh yellow light, wrapped in a towel, looking at the drain of water darkened with bruising. Her throat felt tight. Her face felt foreign. She remembered how, before the surgery, she watched videos of women walking out of clinic smiling, flawless. How she told herself, "This will be my story." Instead, this was hers: bruised lips, a stiffness in her cheeks she didn't recognize, a scar faint but obvious just under the hairline. And later, when the swelling burst open the truth, she would wish she never signed those papers. Stay with us. At work, she tried to pretend nothing changed. She sat in meetings, tapping her pen. She thought she could cover it with makeup. But the swelling made her skin shine differently. Her colleagues stopped calling her fresh or glowing. A few asked if she had been sick. She didn't correct them. She pretended it was fine. Because if she didn't say it, maybe it hadn't happened. But inside, she was unraveling. She convinced herself the worst was healing. She told her mother, "It's just part of the process." But her nights were sleepless. She woke sweating. Her pillow stained. Her mind replayed flashes, the anesthetic mask, the surgeon saying, "Expect some discomfort, you heal quickly." Now the reality hit, the discomfort wasn't going away. It was multiplying. She picked up her phone and typed in "plastic surgery fails" and "regret cosmetic surgery" and "revision surgery statistics." The numbers hit her: between 10 to 20% of patients reported regret. Up to 5% had complication rates in certain procedures. And 8 out of 10 surgeons reported an increase in revision surgeries for botched cases. Every data point felt like a scar she had just looked at. She thought she was safe, but when the revision list started filling up, the nightmare only deepened. One afternoon, she received an email from the clinic: "Please schedule your follow-up." She cancelled it. She was ashamed. She didn't want to see the surgeon again. She didn't want to hear the words, "We need to revise." Later you'll see what she did when the cost became more than she could bear. You'll see how she finally broke open, and why the warning is for everyone. The day she broke was ordinary. She sat in a coffee shop, laptop open, editing her family photos. A friend messaged, "Love the new you." Betty forced a smile and typed "thanks." But she looked down at her hands. They didn't feel like hers. The body that held them felt like a borrowed one. That night she opened her closet and pulled out the dresses she had bought after surgery, ones she'd never worn. They hung untouched, their tags still on. The scent of hope they carried now felt like ash. Her transformation began not in a clinic, but behind closed doors. She cancelled the editing of photos. She stopped pretending. She deleted the posts she couldn't stand. She booked a session not with a surgeon, but with a counselor. She looked at the scar, touched the bruising lake under her skin, and said, "This is my body now." She started writing again, words she had buried under gloss and filters. She spoke of the fear, the embarrassment, the debt, the loneliness. And people listened. Her story spread, not as a success picture but as a caution. It ran in whispers among women searching for hope. Because she showed them what they don't tell you: the fails, the scars, the price. Betty didn't recognize herself anymore. But she knew the moment had come to choose: continue hiding in the shadows of regret, or stand in the light of truth. The phone buzzed again. Notifications of posts, tags, comments. She froze. For months she had been ghost editing her life, masking the consequences, avoiding the camera. Then she lifted the phone, opened the front camera. The same angle she used for the new me post. The same smile. Different story. She exhaled slowly, wiped away the filter's fiction. She whispered, "This is real. This is me." And she hit record. In the video she didn't smile. She didn't pose. She sat in natural light, no makeup. She showed her scar under the hairline. The swelling under her cheek. The asymmetry she couldn't fix. Her voice wavered. "They told me I'd look younger, stronger, flawless. They didn't tell me that sometimes your body keeps the scars they hide from you." She talked about the nights she cried in silence, when the clinic lights were gone and the mirror sat like a judge. She described how she pretended at work, how she edited selfies, how she hid from friends. She shared the debt she carried, the wardrobe of unused dresses, the fake optimism she faked for Instagram. And she quoted the statistics, a 30-day complication rate of 5% for combined cosmetic surgeries. PubMed, 1. She referenced literature showing that many patients face regret when outcomes don't match expectations. PMC, 2. She revealed that in some cases mortality has been documented, for example, U.S. citizens dying after cosmetic surgeries abroad. CDC, 3. She didn't say this to scare. She said it to prepare. "In just a moment I'll tell you what you must ask before you ever sign those papers, because what they didn't tell me could have saved me." Betty paused the recording. She sat quietly in the dark, looking at the reflection behind her screen. The clinic brochure lay open on her sofa, faces smiling, promises made. She remembered how excited she felt. How hopeful. Now she felt something else, responsibility. For the women who would scroll that video later and say, "She looked like me." She thought of the woman who walked into the party 6 weeks after surgery and heard whispers behind her back. She thought of the dresses she never wore. She thought of the nights when her mind became her worst critic. And she realized, the scar wasn't just on her body. It was on her story. But scars, she learnt, do not always end you. They sometimes begin your real journey. In that moment, Betty made a choice. Not to hide. Not to edit. But to speak. Because what they don't tell you isn't just a disclaimer in small print. It's the silence after the surgeon leaves the room. It's the reflection you see when the clinic lights go off. It's the hope you chase, and the loss you don't expect. So, here's the truth she wants you to know. Before you go under the knife, ask the questions no one shows you. What if the outcome isn't perfect? What if the scar stays visible? What if the recovery breaks your confidence instead of building it? What if the death outweighs the beauty? What if they don't tell you until your mirror does? Because time passes. Filters fade. And bodies heal, but feelings of regret can last a lifetime. Betty's voice cracked as she said, "I didn't trade my insecurity for strength. I traded my story for someone else's headline." And yet, through the rupture, she found something real. It wasn't what she thought she'd gain. It was what she needed to keep, herself. Final retention loop closure. If you're thinking of signing that consent form, stop. Watch this video all the way through. Because what happens when the lights go off matters more than what you saw in the mirror. In the end, she looked at the camera and said softly, "Beauty isn't pain. Confidence isn't bought. And perfection is never perfect." And with that, her story reached the thousands of women watching. Not because they wanted to look perfect, but because they didn't want to lose themselves.